Hit like and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel.
Good morning, Caro. How are you, family? Welcome back to Ascending. I am your joyful, happy host, April R. Silver, and you are watching this weekly live stream that we call Ascending on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. And you might be watching on Twitter as well. And if you are watching on Marc's Twitter channel, we're going to ask you politely, you know how we do, to scoot on over and watch on YouTube. That is a perfect, simple, free way to support independent Black media. So we are back, family, and we are going to have an amazing, robust, insightful, educational conversation as always. But today's topic is we're going to be celebrating jazz culture. We're going to be celebrating jazz music. The topic today is Guts and Gifts, celebrating jazz music and culture. We have some amazing guests. There we are. And we're going to, as you can see on the screen, we have some amazing guests, and we're going to get into it all today, this morning, on this second day of August 2025. And we're going to talk about why that is important in just a moment. But as you can see on your screen, or if you are listening and not watching, we're going to bring on in just a moment Chief Robin Neal Clark, Craig Harris, and Greer Smith. Those are going to be who we are bringing to the screen in just a moment. But first, we're going to do what we normally do. We're going to start with um, a shout out, for lack of a better phrase, in the moment. We're going to pay homage to what this special day is, and we're going to acknowledge that today, August 2nd, is the heavenly birthday of our beloved James Baldwin. So there's it's really going to be difficult to talk about jazz music and culture and being the bookworms that we are here at Ascending and not bring up the fact that today is this very special birthday. 101 years since his birth. An amazing, amazing ancestor, powerful in all of his amazing contributions as a writer, as a novelist, as a critical thinker. And I like this picture in particular. I don't know that it's been seen a lot, but we have a member of the family, someone we've referenced in the past, Adeshala Osaka Lumi. And if I was thinking, I would have put up a picture of him. He's my dear brother. He's a very, very good friend, someone we hope to bring onto the show, but they look so much alike. But I bought this picture to the sending because I wanted, for those who know him and have seen him, you can see the similarity. And I have been advocating for quite some time that is that if there's ever a biopic or film, a documentary where an actor is needed to portray our beloved James Baldwin, it should be Adeshala Osaka Lumi. But more important than that, we just want to give praise and pay homage to James Baldwin on what would have been his 101st birthday. So we definitely wanted to do that, but then also what we want to do is pay homage to another ancestor, and that's going to be via bookmark. You all know we do bookmark, and today's bookmark is going to be the autobiography of Baba Randy Weston. So there's hardly a sensical way to talk about the and celebrate jazz music and culture without talking about the amazing contributions of Randy Weston. And you'll see why that's extra special with this group of people that we'll be talking to in just a moment. So the bookmark, for those who are listening and not watching, African Rhythms, the autobiography of Randy Weston, which came out in 2010. There's also his website for those who may not be familiar and want to use this as an opportunity to learn more. RandyWeston.info is the website to learn about this groundbreaking composer, pianist. I was really struggling to find my picture of him, of the two of us together. over the years. I'm going to shout out Greer Smith because that's how I first met him when she produced an event at Brooklyn Borough Hall. And I've since learned about him more from another guest on the show, Chief Neil Clark, that's coming up in just a second. But that is the book for this week. Um, Barbara Randy Weston is the one that teaches us, and I'm going to read this quote from him for those who are listening and not watching. He taught us that in Africa, I'm quoting right now, in Africa, I discovered what the true purpose of a musician is. We are historians, and it is our purpose to tell the true story of our past and to extend a better vision of the future. That is directly a quote from our dear beloved Baba Randy Weston. So we wanted to share that because it's so fitting for the conversation that we are having today in just a moment. You all know we also do Black Media Shout Out. And this Black Media Shout Out is also going to be, wait, I'm sorry, before we go to Black Media Shout Out, we want to do our um, bookmark reminder. We always encourage people, please support Black owned bookstores, including Uncle Bobby's. So that's a standard. There's so many other places where you can buy Black books and any kind of book actually, but we want to shout out Uncle Bobby's in Philadelphia, which is a brick and mortar store. We want to shout out the African American Literature Book Club .com. You all remember us talking about them. And then there's Sisters Uptown. We're going to talk about Sisters Uptown Bookstore and Cultural Center in Harlem, as well as another source, one of the 100 and change Black bookstores, brick and mortar buildings in the United States. We'll be talking about that. But please help keep these critical institutions alive by purchasing from them. So that's our bookmark reminder that we do every week. And now let's go to Black Media Shout Out. So the Black Media Shout Out today is, interestingly enough, for a publication that's not in rotation right now, but it was, and it was groundbreaking. Pure Jazz, founded by a mentor of mine and a staunch advocate and activist for jazz music and culture, making sure that all generations are very, very clear about the impact and importance of this music. That person was Joanne Cheatham. She passed away in 2016. So much of what I learned about jazz music and culture and the appreciation of it, so much of what I learned about working with the young people because we met at, oh man, uh, junior high school 258, I think it was, in Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. I learned from her, Joanne Cheatham. So we want to pay homage to her, and we want to let you know that on the YouTube page for Pure Jazz magazine, that still is archived essentially on Facebook. You can go to facebook.com/Pure Jazz Magazine, all one word, and there are amazing YouTube videos that when she was still on the grind, when she was here, she was posting about the magazine and when the issues were coming out. And she would find these amazing YouTube videos so people can learn more about some of those unsung heroes of jazz, people who have advanced the culture. So we want to let people know the Black Media shout out for today is Pure Jazz Magazine. If you ever find a copy, get it, save it, just treasure it. But in the meantime, go to facebook.com, Pure Jazz Magazine. So I think now we are ready for our conversation. No, not quite yet. We didn't thank you all for watching. We didn't say from where you are ascending. So let us know in the chat where you are watching from all over the world. As you do, I want to also thank my team, the A team. I also want to thank the Marc Lamont official uh, uh, youth team in general, which is an amazing group of people. So we thank you. I didn't want to move forward without giving you your shout out and thanking you, the loyal viewers that you are for watching this show. So we thank you so much. There's some people in California that watch every week. Cynthia Rose, I think is her name. She watches every week, not live, but I just wanted to do a special shout out to her all the way from the Bay Area, if I'm not mistaken. So thank you, Cynthia, for watching. So now let's get into the conversation. You all know what the topic is. We're celebrating Black uh, jazz music and culture. And I want us to bring to the stage our esteemed panelists. We have three amazing people. Let's bring on Chief Baba Neil Clark. Let's bring on Craig Harris. Let's also bring on uh, Greer Smith. Yes, I am so excited to see all of you. How are you?
Glad to see you too.
Morning.
Good morning. Abura Aborye. Oh, Baba, we have you not loud. We cannot hear you, Chief Babanil Clark. I think you are on mute. We will wait for you, Baba.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Icaro.
Oh, so good to see all three of you. I can rest easy now. We're going to get into an amazing conversation. You all are so fitting to come to this discussion, and you have blessed me by agreeing to come to this conversation about jazz music and culture. So I want to do some overarching things relative to your experience in the culture. I want to talk about things that you might think people get wrong or might misunderstand. I want to talk about your upcoming events. And I definitely, because we are at Ascending, the expression of arts and activism. I want to talk about in what ways you have seen or used jazz music and culture as a tool for social change. This is going to be a riveting conversation. And I thank you again, both, all three of you, so much for doing this. And of course, we are going to have to talk about Jazz in the Valley. The big celebration is coming up later this month. So, with that, let's jump into it. Chief Baba Neil Clark, I would like to start with you. I would like to start with you because the audience will, for those who don't know, Chief Baba Neil Clark is a master percussionist. He is a producer and a band leader and an educator and a scholar and a Schomburg Center Fellow. Beyond all of that, or inclusive of all of that, he is an amazing human being. He is one of my esteemed, beloved teachers, and his wealth of information and knowledge around jazz music and culture from the perspective of a percussionist is top line. So, Baba, as a percussionist, the master percussionist that you are, that's been doing this for more than 50 years, I want you, please, to share with us um, the importance of the African drum and jazz music. And I say this, here's another part of the setup. When people think of jazz music and culture, Baba, they often think of the saxophone, fair to say. They often think of the piano, they think of a whole bunch of instruments, but not the African drum. But here you are to balance that out. Can you share with us just some opening thoughts about the importance of African percussions in jazz music?
Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot. I like to where do we begin? Well, let's say this. In talking about music in general, the first musical instrument that we know of is the human voice, the use of the human voice and the human body. After that, after the human voice, the next order of instruments of musical expression is percussion. So percussion is primordial in that is the second instrument, and our body was used for percussion, and after that, objects that we found, rocks and sticks, etc., 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 and the drum comes into that as a percussion as a percussion instrument that was created, and the drum is pervasive throughout the planet. Every society on the planet has always had drums. They're used in different reasons, in different ways. I would say one of the highest forms of the use of percussion is coming from the African continent. There are, to show you how pervasive it is, there are approximately 195 countries in the world. Total, 195 countries in the world. There are more than 105, 106 countries on the planet that have African percussion ensembles in them. That's more than half of the planet. If we have 195 total, hello?
Yes, I wanted to see if to make sure, because this is something I learned. When we talk about the percussive arts and
Yes,
percussive instruments, we're
yes.
talking about more than the drum. Can you just illuminate that part really, really quickly? Not just the drum, but other percussive instruments. Yeah?
Well, percussion instruments are instruments that you hit to make the sound. And there are all different types of percussion instruments. But when we talk about the drum, we're not talking about just a hollow body with a skin stretched across it, because in Africa, you have calabashes that are drums. You have hollow logs that don't have skin on them that are drums. The significant thing about it is that the way African people use percussion instruments, they use it in a linguistic way. So what happens is when we think about music from a Western concept, we think about music in terms of or rhythm in music, mathematical subdivisions of the whole note. So you have a whole note, you have a half note, you have quarter note, 16th note, 32nd, and it's very mathematical. Whereas in Africa, rhythm is linguistic. People play percussion instruments the way that they speak. So from country to country, from region to region, from area to area, the rhythms that people play and the instruments that they play them on, whether it's a hollow piece of wood with a skin stretched across it, whether it's a calabash, whether it is a piece of clay, people play those rhythms. We might call them beats here, but the rhythms that they play are based on the way people speak, the language that they speak. So it might be Wolof, it might be Yoruba, it might be Zulu, it might be Ndebele, it might be any Congo and Kikuyu, so many different rhythms, and that's why there's so many rhythms throughout the world. So the African drum is fundamental to humanity, and even more so significantly, the African people. When African people were brought to the United States, they brought the understanding of their drumming and their drum rhythms with them. In many ways, that ability to exercise that on their traditional instruments was suppressed and in many ways eliminated. Not in all ways, but in many ways it was eliminated. So what happens is, as the music that we know today as jazz evolved, the rhythms and the rhythmic element that is fundamental to African music was developed in this music that we call jazz in ways that were different on different instruments. You don't see that, as you described, you don't see the African drum in jazz commonly because there's an implicit bias. The African drum was outlawed in 1740. And because it was outlawed, it was intended to be eliminated. It was intended to be eradicated. It did not disappear totally. In different places, in Congo Square, in the Hudson River Valley, in the Pinkster Festival, in the fife and the drum traditions in Tennessee and Georgia, the African drum survived. However, anything African was looked down upon. People were discouraged from identifying with Africa. So even to this day, if you look at the programming of jazz, the African drum is involved minimally, because that implicit bias has carried over the
Yes.
century.
Yes. That is foundational. And I'm turning into a little girl because every time you speak, Baba, I learn something. As long as we've been working together, and I appreciate that. We're going to come back to some of what you said, but that is a excellent introduction, and to set the tone for this. So I thank you. I want to use this, if we can scoot over to Craig Harris, right? Uh, Legendary trombonist, composer, band leader, and a bit of a innovative force to be reckoned with in your own right. So we want to again welcome you, Craig Harris, to the stage. It's been my pleasure to work with you over the years. I want to talk to you about a point of, yeah, for sure. I want to talk to you about your point of origin, right? And I know that you agree so much of what has already been said and what will be said. But let's zone in on you and your point of origin when you came to the scene. You came to the scene in the mid 70s, 1976, correct me where I'm wrong, and you played with and toured with Sun Ra as a trombonist. And so I know that set you up for so much of what you've been doing for the past 50 years as a trombonist, as a musician, and a composer. So let's talk about coloring outside the lines.
Okay.
With the music and the gift that you have and the culture that you've absorbed, you color outside the lines, right? Some people regarded you as an avant-garde trombonist and musician. And the fact that you toured with Sun Ra says a lot right there, the godfather of Afro futurism. So let's go to you and give us your insight about your point of origin and why you embrace this culture the way that you do.
Well, I'm a musician. I started very young, 9 years old, went to school and learned to play the music. I think a turning point was when I decided to go to the State University College at Old Westbury, where Makonda Ken McIntyre, Shashi McIntyre, Warren Smith, they were starting one of the first music programs in the United States that dealt with dealing with music from an African-American perspective. And this was in 71, and I went to school there. The curriculum was you had to understand the methodology of Monk, Thelonious Monk, Charles Parker, John Burks Gillespie, as well as all of the European composers. But it came through that lens, and you had to study. Miss McIntyre herself was an incredible historian, so she really kind of kept me I learned a lot about history. She said, "You're learning to play with my husband, and you're getting that together. But can you write? Can you read?" So it was a full kind of spectrum. So coming through Westbury 4 years, I graduated from Westbury, and then there's a man named Lordine Patrick, who was one of the founding members of Sun Ra's orchestra. He said, "What you want to do?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Come to this club called the Bottom Line and sit in with the band." I had been familiar with Sun Ra because I used to go to this place called the East, which is Tim Claver Place in Brooklyn, and I would constantly see them. And I met G2 Weusi and Mensa and that whole gang from the East. So that was like every weekend we were at the East. And so I kind of was ready for Sun Ra in the sense of I understood what he did. I know they played for long. I used to go in there, they played 3 hours. We come out of there, they played 3 hours. And so I understood that. So then Pat said, "What you doing?" And I went in and sat in with the band. And Sun Ra said, "Do you have a passport?" I said, "No." He said, "Get a passport." I said, "I didn't have no money then. Passports cost money." So he said, "You need to get a passport." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because we're going to Paris next week." And so that was real beautiful. I graduated 1 week, and then the next week I'm going to Paris. And to understand Sun Ra on the outside is one thing, but to be inside of it was a whole different thing. And it was really that all of my mentors have prepared me for this concept of being an African on the planet and understanding who you are, feeling good about yourself, understanding the contributions that we have given to this planet. And people really don't understand it. He was the kind of person you have to understand my lineage. I come out of Fletcher Henderson. You know, so everybody has their lineage of their line and to come out. So Sun Ra worked with Fletcher Henderson. And so he worked with Sun Ra's born 1914. He worked with Fletcher Henderson. And so Sun Ra would always talk about Fletcher Henderson to us, and Henry Pace, who started Black Swan Records, and about the discipline of Africans having control of their organizations, Africans, you know, having control of their music, their communities. You know, Henry Pace, Black Swan Records, if you do that, that's Bessie Smith. He sold 1 million records in the 30s. So you get this real, you know, and coming from Chicago, Sun Ra, you know, was about, you know, that's an African city. And when I say African, I'm talking about us as a people, you know, not just on the continent, but I'm talking about all throughout the world. And so through working with Sun Ra, that was really, his thing was like really keeping his dream and his band together, and understanding, coming out of Jimmy Lunsford and coming out of Fletcher Henderson and Duke Ellington, how these bands were our I guess, you know, our social, is where we became men and women. It's where we formalized. The bands were so important. 23 people traveling the country, the segregated United States in the 30s and 40s. The big bands traveling the TOBA circuit, which was tough on black asses. TOBA, that's what, you know, like you playing in San Francisco on Monday, you have to be in Florida on Thursday night. So this whole thing. So Sun Ra was an advocate, and it's very beautiful to see that people are really starting to see how important this man was in this time. You know, he's not here on the planet, but he told me everything I'm seeing now with the acceptance of what he's doing is a beautiful thing to see. And to have a person who's 101 years old who's running his band, okay?
Yes.
That's really important. So with Sun Ra, I went to Paris in the summer of '76. And this is really a full circle, because that's where I met James Baldwin in Paris.
Oh, wow.
You know,
that's full circle for real.
Full circle for you.
Yeah.
Because, and for your people who don't know how connected to James Baldwin was to the music, you know, so there was a restaurant ran by in Paris called Hayes. It was a soul food restaurant. So of course, you know, I'm in Paris, I'm eating all this other stuff. And I said, where can I get some grits or stuff like that? This guy who was he was a soldier, and he had started a soul food restaurant, and it was very famous, Hayes. I don't know if it's still going on. So I go into Hayes restaurant, and I went for some lunch and grits, but I changed my mind. I decided I want some asparagus soup. So I'm drinking my sips, and I see this little man in the corner, and he's right in the corner, little dark man. I thought it was Miles Davis, because that's my hero. I said, I think that's Miles, you know? And it was James Baldwin.
Wow.
So I went and introduced myself to him. I told him on size that. And you have to understand, James Baldwin's brother was a bartender at a club called the Cellar on 96th Street. I forgot his name.
No, McHale's.
No, the Cellar. He was a bartender at the Cellar. He was a bartender.
Wow.
He hung at McHale's too, but he was a bartender.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was a bartender at the Cellar, and I forgot his name. What was his name? Anybody? You know,
it's gonna show up in the chat. I'm drawing the blank.
James Baldwin. You know, the Cellar, that they called that the Village. Then all that McHale's area, 96. That's where a lot of the affluent African Americans lived on that Upper West Side before the gentrification. So that's how I got through Sun Ra. So through Sun Ra, you know, I just learned the thing to keep faith. Keep faith in what you're doing. And it's not about a style. It's not about a fashion. This is your life. This is your life. This is your life. And he inspired me in so many different ways. And I really didn't believe all that stuff he was talking about when he was talking about it. But, you know, he threw them books on me, and I read those books, and you kind of see, you know, and it's really, it planted the seed of Kuji Jakalia, do for self, and forever. And
so many of the principles, there's a through line in terms of what you said just now, what you shared, which is just a snippet, you know, of what you could say. And then, but there's still a through line to what Chief Baba Neil Clark said before you. This respect and the way that we pay homage through the music, the culture, and the decisions that we make around Black people, Black ownership, Black thought, Black culture, and uplifting it up, and not necessarily marching to the beat of Western society, for lack of a, you know, to put it awkwardly. So I like And I love rather this this mindset that says we are sufficient. Our art, our talent, our thoughts, what we own is worthy for us to embrace and to hold on to and pass on. And to your point, Fred, it's not a thing that we do, it's what defines us. It's so much of what we do. I want to just do a shout out to your alma mater as well. And you know this because we talked about this. But SUNY Old Westbury was SUNY Old Westbury College. Just 2 years ago, it became SUNY Old Westbury University.
Oh,
As I know you know, but it is there where I taught hip hop and social justice. So we have that in common, as you know. So they've been groundbreaking for a minute. The fact that they have certain requirements that you just mentioned in terms of in the music program and the elders, they also, this was the first time they had a hip hop and social justice class during the 50th anniversary of hip hop. So I just had to do that for SUNY Old Westbury University. So thank you for referencing that. We're going to come back to you, Craig.
yeah.
I want to go over to, let me just say to your point, Bessie Smith, you mentioned Bessie Smith. For those of us who know even just a little bit about James Baldwin, that is what he took with him, the music of Bessie Smith when he left the United States to go find solace in another land, a whole another continent. But it's jazz music was what he couldn't leave behind when he was writing all of the great literature that you know. So it's amazing to hear that you met him there. So that's wonderful. I'm going to segue to you, Greer Smith. You, my friend and mentor, have you are also the embodiment of jazz music and culture, but not as a musician, but as an advocate, as a presenter, as the founder of Jazz in the Valley, which celebrates 25 years this year. But like we like to say here, you're someone who gives a damn, right, about the culture. And you are steadily letting people know there's more to this than what meets the eye or what Western society says about jazz music and culture, and Western society tends to get it wrong. So let's talk about, if we may, your point of entree, your origin story as someone who loves this music and culture. Can you give us a quick overview in that regard?
Yes, and thank you for having me and having this conversation. The opportunity for me as a woman to talk about this and not being a musician, being in the company of these illustrious musicians, is an honor. I started as a kid, being fortunate enough to grow up in the borough of Brooklyn and being around women that pretty much charted their own course. I went to a private school called, it started out as being the Little Red Schoolhouse. It was started by a woman by the name of Dorothy Bostic. She was the wife of a famous disc jockey in the New York City area, Joe Bostic. And in Little Red Schoolhouse, we were able to do everything through an African lens before they were calling it that. When I was a little girl, it was not Black History Month. It was Black History Week, and during that week, I wanted to be Toussaint Louverture, and some of the faculty looked at me, but not Dorothy. She said, "Let her do what she's going to do." That was groundbreaking for me. First of all, Toussaint Louverture was not African American and was not a woman. So right then, I knew that being a woman, I could do whatever I wanted to do, and have done so ever since. Fast forward, I had an opportunity to work at the New Muse Community Museum of Brooklyn as an executive director, which already had an established jazz program under the direction of Reggie Workman for many, many years. But when I got there was a gentleman there by the name of Rashim Sahu. And Rashim is a wonderful composer, musician. And the cats that were there, in and out of there, were names that people do not know, but were stellar, stellar musicians. I got a chance to work with them, learn a lot, and the rest is history. when I had the opportunity to do an afternoon of jazz and art, which go hand in hand. I consider jazz part of the cultural spectrum of what we do. I went to AHMAD Jamal and said, hi, I want to do I want to do this with you. And we talked, and I told him that same story about being a little girl, doing what I wanted to do, and what this music that I always heard from my parents. And we started, and 25 years later, here we are.
And that's an amazing story, but you could have been the the lover of the culture and the music, and you could have been a student in the way that you are without having started a jazz festival, right? Without having started to do a jazz festival in the Hudson Valley, which is off the beaten path from New York City, right? The major contribution that that city brings to the culture. You're doing it away, like what, 90 minutes away from the city, off the beaten path. You could have supported jazz music and culture and musicians in so many different ways, but you were like, I'm going to do a festival. You have vendors. You have on the screen, it says, it talked about Hugh Masekela, so many people, Les McCann, so many people that I learned about from you, Baba Randy Weston, Arturo O'Farrell. Like you have all of these people. You didn't have to do a festival to
Yeah, I
show your
did.
love. Okay, there you go. Let's
I
hear it.
use my I use myself as a consumer of the art form. This music was created to be an acoustic, spiritual experience. You cannot feel this music if you are sitting with 20,000 people, 10,000 people looking at the cats on a jumbotron. You cannot feel this music. It's about the hang. It is not about the music. So I hold space. Jazz in the Valley holds space for being able to provide a spiritual experience where you're comfortable, where you get a chance to feel this music and about your life, knowing that you're part of this transformative art form. That's what I said I'd do, and I'm doing it.
Right. You've had some amazing people, and I've been happy to be a volunteer and be a marketing partner, if you will, for Jazz in the Valley. But I'm gonna need you to flex a little bit. I'm gonna need you to tell the audience, for those who don't know, who some of the people that have graced the stage. I mean, 25 years, you can't name everybody, but I'm gonna need
No,
you to flex.
and I can't because what is it, old timers? Is that they calling it now when you don't remember stuff, or CRS? But no, I can't remember everything. But also ha- being able to meet folks like Randy Weston, Baba Randy, I felt very close to him. The first time I met him, if three people showed up, Randy Weston was going to come, he was going to play, he was going to talk about Africa, he was going to remind us where we came from. There's nobody doing that. I felt that was important. Um, so at the top of the list, and when he told me for his 85th birthday that Brooklyn didn't appreciate him, which is why we did what we did at Borough Hall. So
And that, I'm sorry, let me interrupt for a second. That was 2011, I believe.
mhm,
I was there, had the honor to work with you on that. That was 2011 at Brooklyn Borough Hall.
mhm,
Uh, it was just a straight up tribute, yes, if I
yes,
remember correctly, in 2011, a concert, and it was packed.
mhm.
It was packed. So you saw fit to give him his flowers as best you could, and you did wonderfully at that time, and you also brought him to Jazz in the Valley. Yeah?
Yes, I did. And
Mm.
along with him always comes Chief Baba Neal Clark and Alex Blake. So, it's like the triumvirate, the secret sauce for what Randy does. The first time we did have Baba Randy was in 2001,
Mm.
and which is another shout out for smaller venues. Whenever you can see folks that do this music and be a part of that experience, We had a gentleman by the name of Stefan Harris. At the time, he's like 23 years old. He's plays the vibes. And he was excited because he got a chance to meet Randy Weston. He had, anybody that does well in the music knew who Randy was. And I'm looking, and all of a sudden I see somebody, Stefan, not a stagehand, rolling out the vibe. And then Randy's at the piano. And the first part of the set, Stefan said, Randy and the cats were playing with Stefan. That does not happen when you've got a million people around in a big stage and all of the other fanfare. The musicians, the artists, the family that is jazz, this is who they are. It's about making the music. It's about sending that message. It's about having that transformative experience. And those are the kinds of things that keep me going.
Yeah. I one of the times that I volunteer, and I haven't even always watched the performances because I was like, at the information table. But I know one year you brought Sonia Sanchez, Our Great Mother. I was happy to work with you on that. But so sometimes it's not the jazz musician, but it's those who love the culture. Were there other people, be it musicians or poets, that come to mind? I think you had Maurice Brown there. Anybody else that comes to mind as
Nikki
well?
Giovanni played. It
Oh,
was one of her
yes.
last summer. It was another. I keep using the word transformative because it is. Everybody was good for at least 2 months after that performance,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
because it's not. And I know there's a big discussion about what is jazz. Is jazz the word? And I leave this conversation uh, to Craig and Baba Neal, but it's more than a thing. The greater society always has to put stuff in a box, and this box called jazz. Uh, Now there's so many people in this box that do nothing like what this music was created for or about. It may no longer be the word that suits what this musical experience is.
yeah. I didn't make it last year in 2024 to Jazz in the Valley, but I heard it was everything. You know what I mean? With our beloved Nikki Giovanni, who has since passed. It was just a couple of months later, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken. Uh,
I was nervous the whole time she was there, but
uh,
the professional and being around folks that love her, that love when she hit the stage, it was like, you know,
yeah.
1969. She was wonderful. But
So
yeah,
before we go to Chief Baba Neal, talk about the project that Nikki Giovanni performed just months before her passing with your music director or artistic director.
art artistic director
Yeah,
Devon Jackson. Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about the actual thing that they did together at Jazz in the Valley.
Well, they did a thing called Nick the spirituals, according to Nikki Giovanni and Javon Jackson, where some traditional Black music and contemporary music, also known as jazz, was combined, and they did this project, which they got nominated for an NAACP Image Award for Jazz and all of that. She traveled, like a regular jazz musician with this, and actually gave her at that point in her journey gave her life. She was wonderful, but she ended her set with ego tripping. You can't leave the stage without doing that, and
And absolutely,
and
absolutely.
brought the house down. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, of course. We thank you for your vision in bringing them together to your stage. I want to segue back to Chief Baba Neal, and Baba, you are one of the ones that helps us to understand that this thing we call jazz, to Greer's point a moment ago, there's another name in the jazz community and jazz culture. Can you talk about how our elders, your teachers, have helped us to understand the other phrase that maybe we should be considering for this thing called jazz?
Well, thank you for that, April. But I think to just touch on what both Craig and Greer said, uh, the music that we know as jazz is not a name that the musicians called the music. It was a name that was assigned by the writers as a means of putting it in a box, as Greer said, so that it could be marketed, so that it could be identified. But you have different people. Baba Randy called it African rhythms. Duke, who was it? Ellington called it jungle music. Um, and so many different band leaders created, people, America's classical music. There are many different terminologies because basically, if we talk about this music that we call jazz, it is an approach to playing music, pure and simple. It is spontaneous composition. It is conversation. It is musical conversation. I would say it's courageous creativity, and it's in the moment. So yes, we have music that we call jazz that has been recorded, but that is not the art form. The art form is experiencing what happens in the moment. The conversations, the virtuosity and spontaneous composition that are happening in the moment in a conversational way among the musicians. That is what the art form is about. And what inspired me to pursue a career in this music was experiencing that. When I would go and hear the masters, I would go to the club and hear the masters. What struck me was the audiences that attended because they wanted to experience the process. They were interested. It was not about the finished product. Jazz is not a show. It can be presented in a show context, but it is not a show. The art form in its purest sense is the process of creating in the moment, the conversation, telling the story, having the conversation, having the dialogue, the virtuosity of each one of the band members on the bandstand, which is the altar. It is the altar where we get together and we share our ideas about a common theme. That is what the art form is. And it's not a show. And as you said in the beginning, it's not instrument specific. It doesn't have to have a piano. It doesn't have to have a saxophone. It does not have to have a drum set. It does not have to have a trumpet. Because on any instrument, the musicians at the level of virtuosity that they are at, because it is a evolving state of virtuosity, the musicians engage in that dialogue, in that process. Baba Randy used to say he was trying to play drums on the piano. I was trying to play piano on the drums. So we would get together and we would engage in that process in the moment. So
Yes.
it's important for people to understand that, because you have a lot of jazz shows now, but that's not what really the heart and soul of the music is. The heart and soul of the music is the pride. You could take a Looney Tunes theme, you could take a lullaby, you could take a Broadway show, you could take there are people that have taken music from different parts of the world, bossa nova, and because they took that art form and interpreted it in a certain way, that is when it became what we know as jazz.
Yes. Wow. That's the tip of the iceberg for what I wanted you to address, and I thank you. Wonderfully said. Wonderfully said, Baba. I want to ask this question before we begin uh, to do the impossible, which is try to close this out. But Mr. Craig Harris, you have been called a sonic shaman. And I understand that phrase to speak to, and guide me if I'm wrong or right, the spirituality of this music and this culture, that thing that is not tangible, right? But we experience it. Uh, Tell us why you have been called a sonic shaman, and what does that mean? Break it down for us, please. You're
Oh,
on. We gotta get. You're on mute.
A healer,
Okay.
a healer. The shamans are healers in cultures, and that comes from there's I live in Harlem, right? And in Harlem, my muse is 125th Street. I walk from the river to river on 100 from the Hudson, and I walk to the east. Maybe every other day I just walk and I collect my rhymes and my rhythms and my melodies and all my information. And we have a lot of street scholars on the way I talk to the street. And there's a guy named Africanus. Africanus is one of them brothers that he can go. He got a theory for everything. He got all these. He got so much now. And so he told me, brother, you're a shaman, because he comes to the common. You be healing the people with that music. You're a sonic shaman. You're a sonic shaman. And so I'm gonna give him credit. And so I said, I'm gonna use that one. Okay. He said, yeah. He said, you tell them people. So every time I walk down the street, he said, yeah, that brother there is a sonic shaman. And he come and then he'll go with the methodology of the reaspiration of the macerations, bring it back to the company. He's one of them guys, he can go. And so that's where that comes from. And he's really right, though, because that's what we are. We're healers. We are healers. And that's and we're sonic shaman, and that's just we're healers. And I take it serious because we're serious about it. And it's really get right to the point. We could talk for about 5 hours, but I really want to get this point about this thing about this music, the nomenclature, the names. These names, we don't, and and give Greer her credit, and people like Alton Abraham, Greer, G2, all the people, we need our people to take chance on this music. You can't call nothing if you can't put a name on nothing if you don't own anything. It's very important.
You said we need to take a chance. You said we need to take a chance on the music. Did I hear?
Oh yes, and our
Okay.
culture, it's oh yes. This is the young folks. We playing this music stuff, but we need our entrepreneurs. We need our publicists, like you. Okay, we need that team that just plowing the way for us.
Yes.
These names, because they're going to be talking 40 years, we're going to be saying what is jazz and what is soul and what is. We need to form. You two people y'all have formed institutions. Maybe I don't agree with what they do at Lincoln Center, but they have an institution. Okay, it's about building institutions. It's about building institutions. Then you can say this is the name itself, because otherwise people will come and name you.
Right.
So it's really I'm hardcore on that, because I've had that same thing. What is jazz 30 years ago? It's about we're gonna be what we're gonna be, who we be, and we're gonna be Black folks. And I'm really concerned about the cross-generational thing. For all these young people who like listening to this program, it's about how this music is it's the African independent thought continuum that has went on for 40, 50,000 years. Okay. And so we got all this, we got the relationship, and this really with you, April, there's a man named Oludara, who's the father of Nas. Okay. You have Kenny Rogers, who's the father of Khalees. You have Lori Carlos, who's what's her daughter's name? Amber Sunshower from, what's Amber Sunshower? The hip hop group. Oh man,
But keep going.
Yeah,
keep
but
going.
you have Rakim, who's like my baby brother. Okay.
Yes.
So this continuum, I'm saying this continuum, you all have to understand, and don't separate us with this music. We're all together. You can't, that's the danger, that they separate us from our babies and our grandchildren. We're all together in this thing, and you can call it hip hop, bebop, free bop, Lindy hop, whatever. We are who we are. We don't stop. We're the people who don't stop, and that's like Amiri Baraka, and. It's just so much continue. Like Greer was saying, I'm saying, when I'm saying that depend on us, I've worked for Greer many times, and I've had some good moments and I've had some bad moments, but she stuck with me. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, not just Greer or Alton Abraham. Sun Ra, that was Sun Ra's main his go-to. Like, well, hey, we stuck here in Louisiana, we ain't got no money or something. Send us a check and send us some money so we can get back home. You know, we need.
Push through.
So you know, and I don't know enough about, like, you know, Mr. Combs, Sean Combs. I don't know enough about Mr. What's the other Sean? What's his name? Carter. Or I don't know about the people. But we can say, but these are the leaders of our culture, and I'm very concerned right now that they could change. If those people are in position to change everything, but who's controlling them? I'm getting hardcore on that. Where's that control coming from? So when we talk about jazz, we talking about what is Africa? What are we as Black people?
Yeah, I would agree that it is appropriate that we go hardcore about that which we create. That's the essence of jazz. It's the essence of hip hop. When you break away from the cosmetics or the superficial, and that's why we do what we do here. You know, that's why Marc has the channel that he does on Marc Lamont Hill official on YouTube. Um, I want to see if we can close out. And guys, tell me if we should go to the comments early. I want to make sure that our audience is engaged as well. But while we do that, I want to do the impossible and try to close this out. And Greer, I'm gonna let you have the last word. So I'll come to you last because we would definitely want to plug Jazz in the Valley. And so, Baba, I want to come back to you to say, with all of the things that we talked about, and we only touched on things, we didn't go as deep as we could, but Chief Baba Neal Clark, share with us succinctly your ascending moment as a musician, as a scholar, as a healer, as Awoifa, as Oloshu, like whatever way you want to, whatever calabash you want to pull from, what was your ascending moment, that point of where you knew you evolved? Pick, pick one, if you could.
I had to pick one. It would be when I received the chieftaincy title in Osogbo, Nigeria. When I was given that chieftaincy title, and my chieftaincy title is Alufo Pejo Awo of Osogbo, which literally means the drummer for the spiritual elite. So everything that I've been doing, from learning how to play in Broward Park in Brooklyn and Reese Beach and Central Park and Grand Army Plaza, and sitting in at the East and taking lessons and playing for dance classes, and then having a career where I'm touring the world with different masters. I'm playing for ceremonies. I'm doing all of these things with the drum, which came to me, and trying to understand who I am as an African born in America, and then be invited in Nigeria to receive a chieftaincy title in recognition of that experience, of that evolution. It said to me, wow, you know, I know that it has meant something for me, but a community on the continent of Mother Africa is recognizing this, and they're giving me official recognition by giving me a chieftaincy title. I'm born in Brooklyn. I'm playing African drums in America. I remember when I didn't know about Africa, when I didn't want to identify with the pickaninnies running around with Tarzan on the screen. And here I am receiving a chieftaincy title in recognition for my journey with the drum in America.
And that was historic. That ceremony, that title was absolutely historic. And that's a wonderful piece. You received that honor with your son.
Yes,
I
I
don't
did.
know in the history of the world if you've had a father and a son receive that recognition, that elevation, that uplift on the
Absolutely.
continent at the same time. That was pretty amazing. And we honor you, Baba, for the decisions and the sacrifices that you've made, because it's a whole nother show to talk about how easy it wasn't to do. So we honor you for that, and we thank you. We thank you so much, Baba. Craig, what was your ascending moment as a healer, as a musician, as a composer? And I've been to your shows. I have your music. Seeing you perform with your band is a transformative experience because it's multimedia. So tell us succinctly your ascending moment, please.
Uh, I think in 1977, when I went to the FESTAC, the Second World Arts, Black Arts African Festival in Lagos, Nigeria. I was on the plane, and it has not happened in history since. 3,000 African Americans, Africans on this continent. Them terms really messing me. African, three Africans from this continent.
Yes.
The Americas were in Lagos at one time. 3,000 of us. Chicago, LA, Los Angeles, Atlanta, all the DC. We got on a plane and we went to Africa. And they got off that plane and they started kissing the ground and just going wild. And that's through Sun Ra, okay? And on my whole way there, guess who I'm sitting next? I'm sitting next to Louis Farrakhan, and he's talking to me, and I didn't even know it was Louis Farrakhan. And we talking for 6 hours. And we land and we get there, and then to see at the village, at the FESTAC village, and I see all of the tribes, all the clans. I go down Upper Volta, which is now Burkina Faso. Everybody had a compound. Cuba, all the 54 countries in Africa. The English, who called me Yanks. You know, the Black Brits who called us Yanks. So I saw the whole culture. I saw us, and I recognized from Shashi and Makanda and them, my whole thing. I understand the thing about independence and how we have institution building. Like my friend Don Quinn Kelly, and Delridge Hunter, Dr. Hunter, like they started Medgar Evers. I understood how we start things. I saw it at Black Money. I saw black people on the money, on the dollar. I said this is something else. But I also understood how broad we are as a people, how broad we are as a people, and how we all don't get along. This is something that's not this little thing about we all. No, we ain't any kind. You in a family, that's the brother you got a problem with, or but we get together and get it done, and then we go back and fuss with ourselves, and that's what's so important. Don't get this thing about we all people and stuff. No, we get together and we have to make this thing happen. That's why I like this guy Ibrahim Traoré in Burkina Faso right now. And that was my moment where I said, I'm all right, and I know what I need to do. I'm on a mission.
Yes, that's powerful. I love your contextualization. I knew this was going to be amazing. Okay, I want to see if I can move on. Thank you, Craig. That was important, and I know you have a piece, a piece that you created in tribute to that journey.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. My whole thing has been created there, and I'm very fortunate enough. We're going to perform at the, I was 2 times, but we're going to perform at the 25th anniversary of the Jazz in the Valley of TransArt's 25th.
Yes.
So I might as well talk about that. Can I get a little moment to talk about that?
Let me, because Greer's going to talk about that part. So let's let her do that. So it's all going to get talked about.
Okay.
Yes, for sure. Greer Smith, my friend, your ascending moment, please.
My ascending moment was that little Black girl in Brooklyn who could do what she wanted to do, surrounded by Black women that broke all kinds of ceilings, going to church with Aunt Shirley Chisholm and having Sunday dinner. Dorothy Bostic, who started Little Red Schoolhouse and Junior Academy, knowing that I could do what I wanted to do, and knowing that ownership of the culture, institution building, that private school that existed for many, many years, and so many other things. We were talking about going hard. I want to go hard for 1 second. I ascended and I'm watching the Met Gala, and I saw Black folk running up and down steps in various outfits. That's a whole nother conversation. that raised $31 million for an institution that stole half of our stuff. But a month before that, institutions like me lost all of our funding from the federal government. How revolutionary that would have been for all of those folks on those steps that we pay money to see in movies and whatever, to say, no, we're going to raise $34 million for all of the folks who got defunded this year.
Say that. Say that part. Say
How
that part.
revolutionary that would have been for those folks to raise $31 million and giving that money to everybody who the NEA took money from, like me, this year.
Right. Yes.
I hate to say this, but if it wasn't for white folks, a lot of Black artists would starve.
Absolutely.
But unnecessarily, because to you all's point, and what we know in our bones, that we are sufficient. We have the resources. Whether or not we have the will, and whether or not we use the will for our benefit and evolution and our eternity, that's the conversation. So but we need not depend on white folks or white institutions to thrive. I want you to continue, Greer. I just cannot hold that back.
We need not depend on them, because they can shut us down, keep us out. I have to remind Black artists right now, I remember those picket lines. So David Hammonds and folk could be in the Whitney and various other places.
Yeah.
So
this is a good way to close out as well, and this is go to each of you. Baba, I'm going to ask you this question that's on the screen. Then Craig, then Greer. I'm going to ask you the same question that's on the screen. I'll read it in a second for those who are listening and not watching. And again, if you're on Marc Lamont Hill's Twitter channel, thank you, but please switch over to YouTube, because we're talking about supporting Black independent spaces, and that is a simple way that you can keep this show going. Watch on YouTube now or later. But so Greer, just hold tight, because we're going to have us close out with Jazz in the Valley, and so you could talk about that and Craig's piece. But Chief Baba Neal, are there any current or new artists that you enjoy? And we're going to close that part out with you. Who comes to mind for you, Baba?
Well, there are many young artists coming up that I am excited with. However, I feel it's contingent on me to shout out Weedy Bryman, because Weedy is the younger generation that's bringing the African drum to the fore. And because of the exclusion of the African drum, generally speaking, in the music, you have all musical instruments, and then you have the African drum. And it's like the African drum can only play African music, as opposed to being able to play any kind of music. So I have to shout out, as a drummer, I have to shout out Weedy Bryman, because I don't know if anybody else would.
Okay. And I've seen him perform a couple of times only, not many. Most recently with the Sasaya. And I want to thank you, Baba. I want to thank you. I want to thank your son, Chief Ayanda Ifadara Clark. If I know anything at all about the importance and the history of the African drum, it's because of the two of you. So I thank you for putting that contextualization, the understanding.
And I have to say this, it's a continuum, because before me, there was Chief Bey. Chief Bey was my mentor. He was my teacher. Chief Bey is the first person to put me in a pit orchestra and say the African drum can play in an orchestra. Craig knows, because he was at Old Westbury when Craig was there. So Chief Bey was my mentor. He was, by extension, my son's mentor. And then Weedy Bryman has picked up that and is not just playing with African dance companies. He's not just playing in ceremonies. He's not just playing in the park, but he's taking the African drum and allowing it to be a full musical instrument with any kind of music.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I know it could be more that you would mention, but thank you for that. Craig, are there any current or new artists that you enjoy today? Succinctly, please.
Um, there's so many. There's just so many. I can't name any that they do. But this is what I'm telling you. This is people that are into this culture. You have to get into the technology. It's a must to get into the AI, the tech. All of the young musicians in my life, all the young people in my life, they up on this technology, and they're teaching me. And it's like, and I got the analog, they got the digital, and it's that cross-generational thing
Right.
that we have to go. So it's that contribution with all these great young people who understand all this technology, how we do this interchange. There's an interchange.
Yes.
And it's about the rhythm. The rhythm, we talked about music, rhythm. Rhythm is the key, the rhythm of life, the rhythm of the way the birds move, the way the stars move. It's the
Yes.
rhythm. It's the rhythm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Greer, why don't we use this for you to talk about the artists who are going to be appearing at Jazz in the Valley the 16th and 17th of August, which happens in the Hudson Valley. Yeah, so let's do that. You got Lisa Fisher, you got Craig Harris coming. Like, go at it.
Yes, no, we had been a one-day festival for many, many years. So we're doing 2 days. The first day on the 16th, Craig Harris has assembled a group of 50 musicians. It's all going to be
Can you say
brass
that
and
again? Five
yeah,
zero.
50. It's going to be 50. They're going to be there on the waterfront with guest soloists, and it's brass and percussion, and the piece is called Breathe. And I really should let Craig talk about Breathe because it's his inspiration. And we can let him talk about that. But then on Sunday, it's we roll into our regular day. We have a multi-generational programming perspective. So we always introduce somebody new that folks may not know, and then someone who's been in the art form that folks still don't know, and then our icons and living legends, and that list is getting shorter and shorter. But
But the,
we
let me say, for those who are listening and not watching, more information, how to get there, where's the Hudson Valley in upstate New York, all of that information is available at jazzinthevalleyny.org. Jazzinthevalleyny.org, 25th anniversary of this music festival, this jazz festival that's outside, it's scenic, and it is August 16th and 17th. The first day is a free concert. Craig, you can give us that in 2 sentences. But the second day on Sunday, August 17th, is a ticketed event, and tickets are on sale right now. So Bree, Greer, to your point, if I can extend it over to Craig, like you said,
Mhm.
Craig, give us in like 3 sentences what is Breathe, this 50-piece band that you are bringing together. Again, it's not the first iteration.
Breathe is a sonic response to the nonsense we have to deal with as people in this continent. When I just said something, I'm gonna say it right now. And I pulled together, it will feature James Carter, David Murray, David Douglas, and myself with and Robert Neal Clark, my Senegalese brothers, and we were coming together a large sound that will make a change. And it's very basic. We breathe through bondage, we breathe through bigotry, we breathe through bullshit. Okay? And that's what Breathe is about. And it's going to be just so hyped to just do it there.
Like, yeah, and I've experienced it, and you did that, you created that, you composed that in response. Tell the audience, please, in response to what?
In
Social
response,
justice activist that you are.
social when I heard that when Eric Gardner died and was killed by the New York Police Department, and he was saying he couldn't breathe. A week after that, you saw everybody walking around talking about they can't breathe. They can't breathe. And I said, hell no, that's not the one. Because breathing, if anybody, percussion, and breath is everything. Breath is the rhythm, the breathing. So I said, we have to breathe. And being a horn player or being just a human being, breath in all things is breathing. So I said, that's why I wrote Breathe. And 2016, we responded with like 80 musicians. We did it the first time in Mount Morris Presbyterian Church. And GREER has been really just extended her platform to us to do Breathe there. So we're excited.
Yes. I wanted to bring that out, Craig, because that is the essence of giving a damn, using your God-given talents and your discipline and your focus and your sacrifices and your decisions for the greater good and the evolution and expansion of humanity, yes, but very specifically people of African ancestry.
Absolutely.
It's the perfect way to close I don't want to say close out. Like I always say on this show, my grandmother she never said goodbye. She always was like, so long. Like, I'll see you next time. So not goodbye, right? My grandmother always, she didn't say goodbye. She'd be like, so long.
But you know, the genome, April, the genome is we all African. The people they don't know it, but the genome is, that's coming to science. Tell them, they've been fighting, but the science say this is who you are.
Yes.
And I just need to say, I don't know who's watching, but because I'm not a musician, but to make this stuff happen, extending my platform would not have happened if somebody didn't step up, me talking about this, saying, don't worry, we got you. I'll pay for the whole day. They know who they are, and I thank them greatly.
Wow. Wait. So you saying somebody came in and was like, don't weep.
Exactly.
Don't weep, GREER. We got you. We're going to cover your expenses.
That's right. Because when we started talking about this, I was saying, oh, Craig, I don't know. Because Craig, I could have $1.50 and Craig will show up for me and has. But I said, I'm tired of doing that. It's, I just can't do it. But then it came together. That's why this Met thing pisses me off. But go ahead.
Right. I got you. So the website is jazzinthevalleyny.org. People can learn information. Can people donate via that website? Can people support?
Yes, they can.
Okay,
Yes.
so if you go, yes. So please put your money where your mouth is. And family, let me say this before we close out and go to our outros. You do not have to feel ashamed if you don't have $1,000 to donate. You don't have to feel ashamed if you don't have $100 to donate. I promise you, because I know this one woman and I know these artists, your $5 is sufficient if that's all you have. Your dollar donation, GREER, tell me if I'm wrong, it matters.
It matters.
I know the psychology of givers, and oftentimes they don't want to donate because they're embarrassed that they only have $5. But to presenters and artists like these three people, that's $5 that they didn't have before to do the work that is transformative work for the community at large. So please get that out of your head. Is that fair to say, GREER?
Yes, it is.
Yes. I thank you so much. My heart is filled with joy to have this conversation. So I'm gonna say so long. I'm not saying goodbye. I hope to see you this year at Jazz in the Valley. I hope to be in New York this time again. Bye bye me. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all that you do and your sacrifices. Craig Harris, it has been my honor to call you my friend. And on the client roster here, I thank you for all you do. Give my regards to your family as well. And GREER, you holding it down. I know sometimes you don't want to you don't want to focus on the fact that you're a woman doing this, but I'm going to lift you up because that's an extra, not with your family, right? Sexism doesn't come into play with your family of musicians and people who embrace you. But needless to say, in the music industry as a whole, what you are doing as a woman in this lane is extraordinary. And you haven't given up. 25 years is just what's on the record. We know you've been doing this work for more than 25 years. So thank you is really what I want to say. Thank you. So family, we are going to shift over and go to the comments. I see Rolando in the comments. Of course, Rolando's in the comments. I see Sandy in the comments, and I see Mo. Of course, our regulars are here, so we thank you, thank you. Let's do Pin It, because then I want to show you the flyer for Jazz in the Valley. I think we should go to Pin It. And let's pull up the Jazz in the Valley. Not that one. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Well, we'll start with this one. You all remember last week, Dr. Danette was here. So we just want to remind you on the screen, if you're listening and not watching, there's an upcoming workshop from Dr. Danette Bean, who was with us last week when we were talking about, go watch that video. July is National Fibroids Awareness Month, and we talked about that last Saturday, the last Saturday in July. Dr. Danette has a workshop where you can register, and it's called the Reset and Rebalance, a natural relief for perimenopause with Western medicine. So we talked about perimenopause, we talked about fibroids last week with our esteemed guest. That workshop is coming up on August 23rd, which is just in a couple of weeks. You can go to Dr. Danette Bean, DrDanettBean.com. That's one pennant. I know we have another pennant. Guys, the next one, let's do Jazz in the Valley. So we could pull up that flyer for Jazz in the Valley. We want to remind people Jazz in the Valley happens in the Hudson Valley, upstate New York, Poughkeepsie to be very specific. And it's two days of music, August 16th and 17th, 2025. That's 25 years. And the website again is jazzinthevalleyny.org. You see here, Craig Harris is going to be there, Lisa Fisher. For those who I had the chance to meet her via the Black Rock Coalition, y'all know the Black Rock Coalition. We did them early in the early days of Ascending back in February, March. But yeah, I saw her at what was it? The tribute, so to speak, lack of a better phrase, the tribute to Sly and the Family Stone. That was back in October. We had a chance to do PR for that event. Shout out to Daryl McNeil. But yes, Lisa Fisher was there in her amazing self. So go to the website to find out who the other performers are. Orrin Evans, Dr. Eddie Henderson, Craig Harris, again, jazzinthevalleyny.org. Do we have another pennant, guys? I don't know if we do. I'm not remembering. Please forgive me. Yes. Miss Jennifer Wilson, founder of Sisters Uptown Bookstore. We talked about this last week very, very briefly. That bookstore, which is a building in Harlem, needs our help. Dr. Danette brought that to our attention last week. I learned about it first from the Center for Black Literature. I'm always name dropping on purpose because our institutions need us to name drop. But I spoke with the owner of Sisters Uptown Bookstore and Cultural Center in Harlem, and she says we are not closing. If you watched any of the news, local in New York or national, Black Enterprise covered the story that they were closing. That they needed help. Sorry. Black Enterprise covered it. All of the patch hyper-local websites covered it across the country. It was news everywhere about this institution, and they did have a successful run with the community coming out to support. They still need help. We are going to bring her on this show. Shout out to Clarence Reynolds for making that connection. But we're going to bring her here to talk about Black bookstores. And she said there's only like 150 across the country of Black-owned bookstores. But she's an amazing pioneer in this way. So if you can, there's a donate button on sistersuptownbookstore.com. There's a donate button. There's no crowdfunding campaign the way we're used to seeing crowdfunding campaigns. Go directly to sistersuptownbookstore.com. Support this bookstore. She is here for the fight. She's not giving up, because it's not just a bookstore. It is a gathering space. It's a cultural space where people get to come and learn. So we wanted to pin that for you. I think that is everything we are going to. Well, there's one pennant that says I'm available for speaking engagements as well. So yes, contact Drake Holiday. I've been speaking at colleges and universities for years now, and I'm still available, personal or virtual. So I want to shout out my agency, AquilaWorksongs.com. I'm going to invite you to follow me on social media. I want to invite you to check out the playlist. Every episode we've ever done is on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. There is a playlist. So go check out those previous episodes. I am April R. Silver on social media and Aquila Worksongs on social media. Guys, how we doing? We're closing out with telling everybody to go to our website for sure. Any errors and omissions, guys? When I say guys, I'm talking about my producers. Shout out to Drake, Aaron, and Kevin.
No, we're good.
We're good? Okay. Thank you, family, so much. We will see you next week. Let's put up who's coming up. This is not in any particular order. We have Dr. Makola Abdullah. Remember, we had to reschedule him. Kevin Powell is coming. Brujas of Brooklyn is coming. I think Chichi Taifa is coming next week. That's who's going to be next week. The Black Power, Black Lawyer, her book and the work she's done with reparations. Man, she is a fireball. I cannot wait to next week. But she's coming on. We're going to have Marcia Pendleton. We're going to have so many people. Like, we're booked. But your ideas are welcome still. So thank you, family, so much for joining us for another week of Ascending. I will see you next Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern, only on Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. In the meantime, stay up.